Hi, friends. Happy Monday. What is today? November 15th, 2021. Let's take a moment to come into this space together. Go ahead and close your eyes if it is safe and appropriate for you to do so. Maybe today you want to put your hands on your body somewhere, your lower belly, hand over belly, hand over heart, hands over heart. And taking a few breaths into your hands wherever they are. And just allowing yourself to drop into presence, to let go for the next 20 minutes, just the next 20 minutes, let go of anything that feels like a distraction so that you can show up from this place of your higher self, that you can listen to those intuitive insights, downloads, clues that your higher self is sharing with you to point you on your best path forward. Taking another full breath in, complete breath out. And if you close your eyes, you can open them. So last week, my dear friend Erica sent me a podcast recommendation, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this podcast and what I took away from it here today, because it feels very relevant to so many conversations that I've been having, conversations we had on retreat a few weeks ago, conversations I've been having with one-on-one coaching clients, and conversations I've been having with myself. So the episode was on Joe Rogan's podcast, which is one of the most popular podcasts out there, and he interviewed interviewed the singer-songwriter Jewel. And whether you are familiar with Jewel's music or not, I highly recommend listening to this episode. It's a long one, so you'll probably take it, do it while you're cleaning the house or folding laundry or meal prepping or going for a walk, or take it in different bites. But I think that hearing these stories of people's lives, especially people that we maybe put on a pedestal, or we see their shiny self, as such as celebrities, even like Instagram influencers. But hearing these stories and hearing Jewel's stories that she shared of her life, were really powerful, because she has had an intense life. Like, there's been a lot of challenge, I would even say trauma. And yet she is here today showing up from a place of hope and love and kindness. And this idea that, so Scorpio season is about the darkness, our depths, our shadow. And that's some themes that we've been talking about within your stellar center. We talked about on retreat. And oftentimes we're afraid to look at our shadow. It's the thing that we're afraid to look at, because there's shame there, there's pain there, there's things that we don't really want to feel. And yet what this sign teaches us, what shadow work teaches us, what I think any sort of healing modality teaches us, is that when we're able to be with that pain, be with that darkness, to look at it, it can often be transmuted into something gold. That doesn't mean that you necessarily make something good out of a bad situation. It's not necessarily making lemonade out of lemons. But it is like, when you're able to be with that hard stuff, that deep stuff, that's where creativity comes from. That's where compassion comes from. That's where empathy comes from. And so you come out the other side. And it's funny, my sweatshirt says, grow through what you go through. Um, and yeah, I think that just I'll post the episode somewhere, but if you just Google Joe Rogan, Jewel, you'll find it. Uh, and I highly recommend, because I can sit here and tell you those things and maybe they can make sense to you, or anyone else can sit here and tell you those things. But when you actually hear someone who has gone through a lot and that they are able to be out the other side, it's like it's showing you that that is possible. And of course, after listening to that episode, I went back on a Jewel bender and reignited my love for looking at lyrics. And she has some really, that's one thing that she is known for. And I think that I actually want to read some of just a little lyric from a song that I was just listening to. Where are you? Here we go. This is from her very popular song called Hands. And I woke up this morning with this song in my head. And then I looked at the lyrics and I was like, this is great, and a great segue as we enter into eclipse season, which can feel very out of our hands, very chaotic, very like, and for many people, it can feel challenging. So this song begins, if I could tell the world just one thing, it would be that we're all okay. And not to worry, because worry is wasteful and useless in times like these. I won't be made useless, won't be idle with despair. I'll gather myself around my faith, for light does the darkness most fear. Not saying that the next few weeks, as we're in this eclipse portal necessarily have to feel dark for you, but I want to offer this takeaway and maybe offer some music. Perhaps there's music of your own that really speaks to you, as a reminder that there is that light at the end. And especially when we know something's coming up, like in astrology, eclipse season, it lasts a few weeks, happens twice a year. It will certainly pass. So some practical items with eclipse season. It's a good idea to leave yourself more space. I think we talked about this either not last week because I was sick last week, but the week before. It's a good idea to leave some space if you can. Try not to overbook yourself, because eclipses bring up the unexpected. And so if we have space in our schedules, we can have more space to just process that, deal with it, roll with the punches. So tying up any loose ends now, especially, like, I'm thinking there's a few things on my website that I just want to update real quick. A few things within my coaching programs that I want to shift around and change real quick. It's not a big deal, but it would feel like a loose end tied up. So that's a really good tip. And it's a beautiful time to lean on whatever you believe in, as far as like your beliefs, your faith, your community, those ones close to you. And the practice or the tool that I want to offer is asking yourself, if something big does come up during this time, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? You can switch that and ask yourself, why is this happening for me? Why might this be happening for me? Even if it feels like something that is definitely not a positive, you can invite in that inquiry and that curiosity. So let's take a moment we'll take 10 minutes or so to do our weekly setup, hopefully with this little insight in mind. Our first eclipse is this Friday, the 19th. And then we'll have one more, I believe it's the first week of December, like December 4th. And so taking some time to set up your week, and we'll come back together in just about 10 minutes or so. And if you want to Google that song, Jewel, Hands, or any other music that you know speaks to you, you can play that. I'm going to play it over here for myself, but I'll mute myself. All right. So I just listened to that song like 3 times, and still, that's also something I do. I don't know about any of y'all, but I listen to songs on repeat. And it's like there's something in them. It's the lyrics, it's the energy that is medicine for my spirit. And so I wanted to offer that to you in case anyone else is a music and lyric person like me. And like I said, that podcast also is just a really healing podcast to listen to, in my perspective. So if you didn't do so already, I would highly recommend even looking at your list for this week. And if there's things that can be crossed off that aren't necessary, that make more space for your big rocks or your priority items, that will be a good practice to do for the next few weeks and probably through the end of this calendar year. We know that coming upon November, December, lots of holidays, lots of gatherings, or not, but there's like a lot of outside of our to-do energy. And so giving yourself that space so that you can process what comes up eclipse season and beyond. Yeah, I think that my big rock for this week is just that, tying up some of those loose ends and creating space for what does come up. The other thing that I will be working on, and I wanted to invite y'all to, is that I'm hosting a masterclass, a workshop on shadow in astrology. So if you're interested in this conversation about looking at your shadow, looking at your own darkness, but not really sure where or how to begin, in this class, we're going to go into specifically using the astrological birth chart, where you might want to look in your chart to start doing some of that deeper, introspective, reflective inner work, specifically around your shadow. And this is, I decided to do it this time of year because Scorpio season, this is naturally when that stuff comes up, when we can see it and process it best. We can, no matter where Scorpio falls in your chart, you can lean on the energy of the season and the sign to support you in that process. And also, I know this only applies to folks in the Northern Hemisphere, but I do know that that is most of my audience. We're going into winter, which is a season of being in, a season of doing that reflection. So it's not just Scorpio season, it's this whole cycle that we're coming into. So Shadow and Astrology class is this Thursday, the 18th. So right before we we officially get into the eclipses. And it's from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, there will be a replay with notes in case you're unable to join live. I know that's in the middle of the workday for a lot of people. And I do have a discount code if anyone is interested. The code is Eclipse10. So I'll drop that in the chat. I'll also make a post for Instagram at some point later today, so you can check that out. But I would love to have you, if you're not in your stellar center, I'd love to have you drop into class so you can use that code Eclipse10. All right, my friends, thanks so much for being here. Thank you to everyone tuning into this replay. Would love to hear what's coming up for you this week. And if you do listen to that podcast, let me know how it lands with you, how it resonates, or what your nuggets or takeaways from it were. Beautiful, beautiful week to you all, and I will see you soon.